You have in your packets a proposed ordinance for the formation of a farmers market commission. You've heard reports in here. Council attended a workshop back in January that was facilitated by Aaron Zaretsky, who was the consultant who was hired by the city to prepare a farmers market strategic plan. That plan was presented, and staff has given reports to the council wherein the recommendation is, because of the fairly global and sweeping changes presented in that farmers market strategic plan, that staff's recommendation is that very little of that strategic plan be enacted at this point. Mainly because there was a lot of controversy, as the council knows, who attended those meetings with vendors and the public. Certainly not all of the directives of the strategic plan were received wholeheartedly, and obviously need some more public input. So staff's recommendation that very limited portions get enacted at this point. The main one that we've looked at and we've talked about for some time now, and that is formation of a farmers market commission. As you recall, Mr. Zaretsky had originally proposed that a farmers market authority be empowered to take over management of the market, thinking that having that sort of separate independent body would be more responsive to the needs of the community and the farmers market. Mr. Zaretsky was informed that Idaho does not provide for those sorts of authorities, so that wasn't going to be in the offing. So as he looked for some similar vehicle to transfer that management, so to speak, he sought upon the idea of forming a nonprofit corporation similar to the Heart of the Arts, Inc., which manages another city facility, the 1912 building. At that point, he had proposed a 16-member board, I believe, with professionals, so on and so forth, to manage the farmers market. That, again, was something that appeared to be overkill for the farmers market that we've come to know and love for the past more than 30 years in Moscow. One of the things that was discussed was, how do you make the lines of communication better between the vendors, the community, the city council. As you know, management of the farmers market at this point comes under the auspices of the Moscow Arts Commission. Several years ago, a farmers market advisory board, a vendors board, if you will, was empowered by the Moscow Arts Commission, and the council and committees have heard from the members of that farmers market advisory board within the past two administrative committee meetings, and I believe a council meeting, two council meetings ago, the representatives of the Allison Myers, the president of the Farmers Market Advisory Board, approached the council and made comment. As you know, also, the council passed policies over the past 2 to 3 years in order to try and set up blanket policies for the farmers market and the operations within the farmers market. That was a fairly clunky process. There was feedback from the Farmers Market Advisory Board, Moscow Arts Commission, eventually taking quite a bit of time and eventually getting to the City Council. And that was, as I said, not a very intuitive and a bit of a cumbersome process. So one of the things that I think was feedback from the vendors and others to Mr. Zaretsky was that perhaps a different form of oversight might be a better model. So one of the proposals that we have put together is the formation of a farmers market a farmers market commission, which would take oversight of the farmers market, policy oversight and recommendation to the City Council from the Moscow Arts Commission, and would place it in an independent commission that then would make policy recommendations to the City Council. That commission is proposed in the ordinance. Excuse me?
But that is a city commission.
It's a city commission. It would be a Title III commission like the rest of our commissions. It would serve, as noted in the CCSR, it would serve in, I call it oversight, but it's policy oversight. They would be the commission that interacts with the Moscow Arts Director, who is the de facto market manager for the farmers market at this time. And policies would be applied to the farmers market pursuant to recommendation of this commission. Of course, staff would support it. A council liaison would be appointed, just as our other Title III commissions. And they would make policy recommendations to the council. The council then would either pass on those recommendations, support the policies, modify them, or reject them, and they would be the policies that the farmers market then would operate under. So you have in your packets the ordinance for a 9-member commission. This was reviewed by Administrative Committee last week. The 9-member board, commission board, has representation from the vendors of the market, 3 positions. One would be a farmer vendor or a produce vendor. One would be a specialty food member. One would be a craft vendor. Then there would be 4 positions for the members of the public. Customers, consumers of the farmers market, and supporters through their tax dollars of the farmers market. 2 other positions would also be authorized under this ordinance. The first is for an appointee of the Moscow Chamber of Commerce. When we talked about, with the farmers market being on Main Street, trying to get some business interests so that the interest of downtown businesses and businesses in general could also be represented on the board. The trouble with that is if you have one business, then you tend to get one perspective. The Chamber of Commerce, representing not all, but a lot of businesses, and certainly a high percentage of businesses on Main Street, seem to be the way to get that broader perspective for downtown business. The last position is a position that would be created for the University of Idaho Ag Extension. The purpose for that position is to support the farmers market and to give advice and hopefully some resources from the University of Idaho and given a perspective that might be a little bit different from the other perspectives on the board. We believe that this is a broad-based board, that because of the makeup of the farmers market, certainly we've reported the support of the farmers market as you see on the board. The market with direct and indirect expenses is about an $82,000 city enterprise. The fees from vendors support about $27,000 of that enterprise. And the representation on the board, while not reflective of those percentages, certainly is indicative of the council's position that this is a 26-week event taking place in downtown Moscow every Saturday during the summer. And as such, it is held on city right-of-way. It is attended by up to 5,000 people per weekend. And is definitely, as Mr. Zaretsky pointed out, cannot survive, at least in its current state, without subsidization from the city and the general fund. So this board represents representation from the public whose right-of-way is being used and who is supporting it with taxes. So there were a couple of changes the Administrative Committee wanted to look at. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dan.
Of those 4, the public,
Yes.
are they limited? Can it be a walk-on vendor, or is that one of the other 3?
No, they could not be vendors.
No vendor at all?
No.
Okay.
And as you can tell from the makeup of the ordinance, it was intended that there be a balance here, that the vendors have 3 positions and have their opinions. The consumer then has their opinion as well. So if you had a vendor who might have some connection, then really what you're doing is extending that influence. So the idea is to get a balanced approach. When this was taken, I'm sorry.
Looks like you generated some
Oh, I'm
questions
sorry.
here, Tom. Go ahead.
Well, I've been, well, it doesn't have to happen right now, but I do have a lot of concern about the proposal. I've been the council liaison to the Farmers Market Advisory Board and the Arts Commission for the past 2 years now, well, 12 and this part of 13. And there's been no vetting of a citizen commission by either of those two bodies, who have been the two citizen bodies involved with the farmers market policy setting. And to me, it seems like it's come out of nowhere. I know that there's been some discussion of a citizen commission at some point among council members, but in terms of setting up a citizen commission, any formal discussion by the Farmers Market Advisory Board or the or the Moscow Arts Commission has been non-existent. And so my preference for a procedure for discussing this topic would be that if we come up with an idea like this, it should first go to the Farmers Market Advisory Board or the Arts Commission to get their input first before coming to the council. Now, maybe we need to discuss it and get their input, but I just feel like we haven't had any formal input from either the Citizen Commission, the Arts Commission, or from the Advisory Board, which is made up of, so many vendors. Now, last year we had a lot of difficulty with policies going back and forth between the City Council and the Advisory Board and the Arts Commission, and I feel like we had a number of false starts with, the policy issue, the dog issue, the moving the market back and forth issue, and I feel like we are creating more issues by considering this now without first, slowing it down and letting people have some say that are, intimately involved in the running of the Arts Commission or the Farmers Market.
Gary, is there a mechanism for that, given the time frame? I know there's been a perceived sense of urgency in getting something in place before this market season.
Yeah, there really isn't. The reason that it's moved ahead, and they have been advised throughout. Allison Meyer indicated that they had discussed the Farmers Market Advisory Commission. You yourself have received several emails indicating that overall they were supportive of the Farmers Market Commission and thought that would be a good move. They did not necessarily agree with the makeup of that commission.
I agree that in the last week there's been discussion.
It's been
about it.
several weeks.
2 weeks. So
Yes.
since March 4th, I think.
Yeah.
Understand.
But there's been no advisory board meeting. There's been no Moscow Arts Commission meeting. And to me, the procedure would be that if staff comes up with an idea like this, it would have been best to first float it by those two citizen commissions rather than coming to
Yeah, I think
admin.
what the mayor was asking also was, is there a time frame here? And there certainly is a time frame.
Yeah,
And
got
the
it.
time frame is, do we put something in place to try and alleviate some of the issues? It's one of those things. I fully understand what you're saying, Tom, and we have, as you know, endeavored to have as much public input as possible. And as you saw through Mr. Zaretsky's presentations over the past 4 months, 5 months that he was under contract, we had lots of meetings, and they didn't all involve the consultant coming out. We had meetings that were held by staff and the Advisory Commission and others. In this situation, the farmers market opening is coming down upon us. None of the structural changes, the managerial changes, nothing's changed since last year. The idea is to try and get a commission, an independent commission, who's able to provide that oversight. I understand that it would be nice if we had another 4 months or 6 months before the market opens, but we don't. We utilize that time to go through the strategic planning process. And, of course, when the strategic plan came forth, it wasn't something that the council could just say, hey, this is a great idea, let's implement it. So this was seen as a bridge. And with the representation on the commission, it seems like it's a good balance. Now, I will say that And certainly the council members who were at the administrative committee last week also heard from David Gies, who was the chair of the Moscow Arts Commission through most of Mr. Zaretsky's work, and indicated that the Moscow Arts Commission wanted to have some other form of management than the Moscow Arts Commission. Again, he's since that time no longer the chair, and I don't know if he's on the commission anymore. But he certainly gave that long-term perspective. He'd been chair for something like 4 years. So, I mean, you get that perspective as well. But certainly your point is well taken.